Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I am in a different place and I am a month later than usual for my annual recap of the year. I'm not calling it a year in review because I'm not doing the whole year month by month, detail by detail like I've done before. There are lots of reasons why this video is later this year than it normally would have been, but it is still my first public channel video of the new year, so that is still a thing. But I am in a new place because I moved, and so that was a big thing last month, getting everything settled, and then now being here trying to figure out a location. Backdrop is still in progress, and a time of day when it makes the most sense. I've got cats running and jumping around. One of them is actually on a shelf above me right now, so who knows what's going to happen in the middle of this video. But I've got some daylight and I've got a quiet house to myself for a little bit, so I thought, finally, let's go ahead and get this done. I also didn't have my editing software available until recently. Again, tech issues, story of my life, I know, not new, right? So instead of doing the month by month, fully detailed year in review, because I didn't know if I was going to have the ability to edit at all and get any pictures in here or anything like that, so I wanted to pare it down. I just made myself a list of kind of top moments of 2022. I was going to try for a top 10, but it's not really 10. I had like 9, but then if you break it up differently, it's actually like maybe 11 or 12, depending on how you think of it. So let's just call it notable moments from my 2022. It's not even necessarily highlights, it's just big stuff from 2022. And maybe not so big stuff, but just like stuff. I wrote them down in no particular order, but this first one is definitely a big standout event for me from 2022, and that is Paganacon. I went to Paganacon for the first time ever in March 2022. It was very exciting. It was my first time attending a pagan conference or convention, whichever word you want to use. It's still con for short. Not my first con ever, technically, because I went to PAX East a few years ago, which is a video gaming in general. Not all video games. There are board games, card games, etc. Gaming con. This was my first pagan one, though, and I have to thank my friend Emma for getting me there, basically. She had been telling me about Paganacon for years because it's in her local area, and I never really made it work with my schedule, with my finances, but last year, Emma was on the board and said, hey, I'm on the board this year, I'd really like you to come out, and so I made plans to go. And then at the last minute, I found out they were still looking for more workshop presenters, so I ended up being able to present workshops there. I got to meet a bunch of people in person for the first time who I had gotten to know online, such as Keldon, such as Jason Mankey, Lilith Dorsey, Laura Tempest-Zakroff, Wendy Rule, the list goes on. I also did a vlog, so I'll link to the vlog if you haven't seen it already. Next thing on my list is witch camp. It was my first time attending a witch camp in person in 7 years, basically since I became part of the reclaiming tradition. I sort of count my involvement in the wider tradition from the first time I really engaged with the wider community, which was the first time I attended a witch camp in 2015. So 2022 was the first time I had attended an in-person camp. Since then, it was also my first time at the particular witch camp. The one that I went to in 2015 was different. This was also my first time being one of the Ritual Arc co-conspirators, one of the people who designs the evening rituals for everyone to enjoy throughout the week of camp. So I'm actually doing that again this year in 2023. So this will be my second year in a row on the Ritual Arc team, and I'm very excited. But yeah, 2022 was my first time doing that as well. So those were the first two things that came to mind, definitely immediately, Paganacon and being back at camp. Next thing on my list, I went to the medieval fair for the first time in years, because I hadn't been since before the pandemic, but also even before that, I hadn't gone for a couple of years because it just didn't work out that way. So this is the first time I had been back to the medieval fair in years, and also I got to go with some of my local witchy friends, so that was extra fun. Also got to meet up with one of my reclaiming friends from out of state who came to the fair, and we crossed paths and got to meet, so that was really wonderful. It's definitely a big moment of 2022 for me. It also marked 1 year with my local reclaiming community. Wow, that was a big thing, like just seeing how much we had gotten to do over that first year, how quickly everything came together. It's amazing. Like I had been trying to get that group sort of started for years, right? And it's slow going. People reach out, but then they don't show up to things or whatever. You don't really hear from them. But then all at once, a bunch of people showed up who actually like wanted to do stuff. And then there we were a year later, having been doing magic and ritual together for a year. And some of them were pretty darn beginner at the beginning of that year, and just seeing how much they had progressed on individual personal levels over that year as well was just really cool. So yeah, we celebrated 1 year with my local community, and we also started doing some things like that were not specifically ritual, but that were more Skillshare and teaching based, where we could just talk about like how stuff works in the tradition and answer people's questions about different elements of ritual and practice certain types of things. So it was very cool. I also took the final core class in reclaiming in 2022. I finally got to take the communities class. The communities class was not a core class when I went to that first camp, or it was, but it just hadn't been taught as many times. I'm forgetting the exact timeline right now, but that's not important. At the time, I only knew of 4, and so I had this plan that I was going to take those 4 core classes before I started student teaching. I did that, but then throughout that process, I became aware of the 5th class, and it just wasn't offered very often. And so because a lot of things had to start being offered online more often, it actually enabled more people to get through their core classes and also engage with community if they weren't able to do so before. So I was able to take 2 out of the 5 core classes online, and that is why I can now say that I've done all 5 of them at least once. I've done elements of magic now multiple times, but that's normal. There are things that we keep going back to. There's foundational practices and core curricula. So, but yeah, I took the final core class that currently is a thing in 2022. It's very exciting. Couple of smaller things next, but that were kind of big for me. I got new glasses in 2022. Oh, I was trying to turn so you could like see the colors, but I can't tell if you can see them because I can't see. There's no light coming in. They're like blue and purple. And these ones do have a blue light reduction right on the lenses, which is why the reflections in them are like purplish, bluish purple. I also, for the first time, got prescription sunglasses, which was an amazing thing for me. It's not something I've ever had before, so that was very cool. I got these right before I went to Paganacon as well, so you would have seen them in that vlog and in all of the videos that I did since then, but that was a big thing for me in 2022. I was starting to do some things that I have not previously had the money to do, such as eyesight related things, dental related things, a little bit at a time. Along with that, I got my right ear re-pierced so that I could actually have an earring in it, because I've been wearing one in my left ear forever, but the one on the right had closed up years and years and years ago. And so while I was doing that, I got second holes done as well, and they are currently spider webs and spiders. Very cute. But yeah, that was a thing I did in 2022 that I had been meaning to do for a very, very long time. I already mentioned some of these names of people who I met at Paganacon, but I also wrote down that I got to meet / get to hang out with people again. People I had already met previously, I got to see again, or people who I saw earlier in 2022, I got to see them again later in 2022. So, for example, Jason Mankey, Wendy Rule, got to actually see them multiple times throughout the year. Got to see Najah Lightfoot again in 2022. Met Estrella Taylor for the first time at the museum with Jason for the recent book that they co-authored. Got to hang out with Laura Tempest Zakroff again, and Nathaniel. Always a good time. Got to see them at Paganicon, saw them again later in the year. And then I also just jotted down, like, because I was trying to think of, like, what's, like, stuff that I haven't done before, like Paganicon and things like that. What else had I not done before? And then this was a somewhat recent thing because I did this in December, so I thought of the fact that I offered readings, like tarot and oracle readings, over Instagram in, like, a one-day pop-up thing for the first time ever. I had never done that before. I do online readings. There's a link to stuff below. You can find that on my blog. I don't have it currently as of the time I am recording this. I don't have the schedule available for you to book because I don't know what my schedule looks like here right now. So it's hard for me to predict dates in advance that I will do live readings. So I might actually do more of the style of what I did with the Instagram readings more, but that was the first time I had done it, where I just like announced it that morning. I said, hey, go to my booking thing, sign up. The time doesn't matter because I'm not going to do it in a specific time slot. It's not going to be live, but I'm going to do them throughout the day, and then I would message them to people, and this was specifically over Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, follow me on there. It's cutewitch772, same as here, so that you can find out if I'm doing anything like that again last minute. If I do know about it a little bit ahead of time, maybe the day before, 2 days before, I will give you some notice if I have it. But the thing is, I don't necessarily know. I'm looking at my calendar. I don't necessarily know what's going on around here on any given day until the day starts. So I might not be able to plan ahead for a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But that's the last thing I thought of to put on my list. And oh, of course, the other big thing that happened in 2022 was the realization that I had to move. And now here I am. So that was a big thing as well. That is my little recap of kind of big moments, notable for me, like the glasses, you know, like those things might not seem like a big deal to everybody, but to me is a pretty big deal. Also, if you're not already sponsoring me on the Patreon, there's also links below for that. I have been doing more stuff on the Patreon. This is my first public channel video, but I've already done some videos for the Patreon. I did a really long astrology nerd type blog post on there yesterday, and there's a bunch of other stuff, more behind the scenes things, telling people about things before the rest of the general internet hears about them. So when my public channel uploads are a little more sparse, the Patreon is a great way to do that. So info below. Thank you so much for watching and or listening to this video. I will see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.